Welcome to the Jaron Jarvis channel. I am Jaron Jarvis. Today, I would like to introduce to you, if you see a rest stop on Clear Creek Road, keep driving. It was late. I had probably been driving for over 10 hours, trying to make it home in Allentown. I've traveled across New Hampshire most of my adult life as a professional truck driver hauling logs, and on most nights I can tell you that I can handle the long hauls from Allentown, Penn State up to the White Mountains, but bad weather can make you run out of your drive time fast. Typically when that happens, I'll find a shortcut down some of the shorter narrower roads that 18-wheelers probably shouldn't venture and cut my time in half. That was what happened when I decided to take a turn on Clear Creek Road. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard the rumors and wondered, is the road really haunted like they say? Well, until last night I would have told you no. In fact, I have probably taken the road plenty of times before, and not even thought about it. But this particular night I knew that my drive time was running out, and I would need to find a place to stop for the night. I kept checking the time, wondering if I could get to the next state highway before the minutes ran out, but as my heavy wheels kept clogging on the road I knew it wouldn't be possible. Then I saw a neon sign shine in the darkness. Mel's Meals, open 23 hours a day. It was a rest stop. Out here. I had never seen a rest stop on this road before. There was another truck already parked, and I could almost smell the food coming from the diner. The GPS told me it was another 20 minutes before my next turn. I knew something didn't feel right. But I was so tired. I decided if someone else had decided to stop here, then it must be safe. Screech. I activated my air brakes and grabbed my big 72 ounces cup I bought a while back and checked the time. 7:13 p.m. I knew it was later than that. Had to be. It was so dark. I walked toward the diner and then looked at the other trucker that had pulled in to catch a night's rest. I didn't recognize the logo on the side of the truck. The truck itself looked old and rusted, like it had been built in the 80s. Then I heard a sound that made my heart skip a beat. It shuddered and boomed and shook the trailer. I heard this loud screeching noise like massive claws against the metal as I backed away and looked toward the cab. Pop! A man wearing a full body suit jumped from the cab and moved toward the trailer with something glistening in his right palm. It looked like an electric cow prod. My mind raced as I watched him unlatch the trailer and climb inside. I heard more screams, the rattling of chains and the loud shock of the cattle prod zapping whatever was inside. Then he climbed out and latched the gate back. He didn't seem to notice me at all and placed the weapon back in his cab before climbing in and shutting the door. I wasn't about to approach him and ask what that was all about. In fact, if I still had remaining drive time I would have left right there and then. But our trucks are monitored by the company I work for, and any sort of violation like that would put me out of work without question. So I mustered up some courage and walked inside the diner. As I expected, it was almost entirely empty save for one waitress and a cook I caught a glimpse of in the small window to the rear. A bell jingled softly on the door as I walked in, and the spunky blonde waitress smiled cheerfully toward me. "Evening, hoss. Welcome to Mel's Meals. I'm Cindy," she said excitedly as she trotted off to get a menu. A scratchy version of Little Less Conversation played on the jukebox as I followed her to an open booth. She passed me a menu, but when I looked at it the brochure actually seemed unnecessary. "Something wrong, hun?" Cindy asked as she smacked some bubble gum. "There's only one item on the menu," I pointed out. "House special." I was starving. I ordered it and asked for a glass of tea. Then I heard that familiar jingle and saw another man walk into the diner. At first I thought it would be the spandex-loving driver I had just seen, but this man didn't look familiar to me at all. He was wearing cowboy boots that made soft clinks on the tile floor and a biker jacket and an Outback hat. He took a look at me and I smiled halfway. "With a get-up like that, you sure stand out like a sore thumb," I told him. He didn't even bother to make a response to me and just shimmied over to the bar, taking off his hat, and then asked in a gruff voice for a coffee. I glanced out toward the parking lot, but still noticed that there were only two trucks. Where had the stranger come from? I checked the clock on the wall, surprised again to find that it hadn't changed a minute since I got here. Enjoy some hash browns while we cook up your order, hun. They're on the house, Cindy said, placing a plate in front of me. They had rearranged the food to look like a smiley face. I made a little chuckle and started to eat. The food was good. The music was a tad off. But I was starting to relax for just a minute when the cook came out carrying a large silver platter with some meat on it. It was still sizzling so loud that I could hear it as he put it down in front of me. "First time here?" he asked me. I looked at the tattoo on his arm and remarked, "Mel was your wife?" "My sister. Ran this diner for years before she gave me keys to the kingdom," he said as he wiped grease from his face. "Do you get a lot of business?" I asked, looking about. Besides the cowboy and I, the place was still deserted. "Nah. You know how rumors spread in a place like this," he said with a chuckle. He was really friendly. And the food looked so good I couldn't say no. He walked back to the kitchen and I reached for my fork to chow down. Then I felt a strong grip on my shoulder and looked up to see the cowboy standing there over me. "Howdy, stranger," I told him, hoping to be jovial. "You don't want to be here," he whispered. "I'm sorry?" I asked, looking at his eyes. "Put your silverware, pick up your keys and leave this place," he said. He was staring straight towards Cindy. No, not to her but to the clock right behind her head. It still hadn't moved past 7:13. "Sorry friend, I know you probably mean well. But I'm not going anywhere tonight," I told him as I reached for my fork again. The bell jingled again before I could take a bite. The man in the bodysuit was entering and he didn't look happy. He was pacing the doorway as Cindy walked up to him. "Don't let them fool you," the cowboy said as he released his grip on me and shuffled his way back to his seat. The waitress and the newcomer were having what seemed to be a heated discussion, but I could only pick up bits and pieces of it above the music.